Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. What up? Hello, friends. Thanks for stopping by again. We are just now starting the show 10 minutes before the debate. We're on C SPAN. We're seeing what's up. We're going to let it play a little bit. Hit that like button, subscribe, share this video out. I know there are probably millions of people watching this debate right now, streaming it, but y'all are on the Pilgrim X channel, which is the best fucking place you can be to watch that. Let's go.
Has the floor. We saw that the former president.
In between, we're not learning much new about these guys. We're going to watch to see how they comport themselves. I think mostly the people who are watching are pundits, partisans, and the press, most of whom are going to say, "See, I told you so." That other guys out of touch and incoherent and dangerous, and only my guy can save the republic. I expect that's what we're going to see, and we'll see how much that actually matters in the long run.
The campaigns agreed to this debate in part because they both said voters are using mail-in ballots and early voting in record numbers. So they wanted to hold this debate now in June, not in September after the conventions. In this new schedule of meeting the voters, do you expect that there's going to be a large audience tonight at home?
There might be numbers for viewing numbers for debates have been going up in recent years, with the exception of 2020. But people are tuning in. A lot of the people though who are tuning in are partisans.
It's a hard choice. It's a hard choice. Somebody, one of the buddies. No, this is one of the buddies. However, somebody had told me. Sorry about that. So this comment, let me find this comment. Somebody had said American politics could be summed up to this: someone with 34 felonies versus someone with 34 minutes left to live. Well, obviously, Trump is going to be our best fucking choice that we have. I mean, that's what it appears to be, right? It could be all wool over all of our fucking heads, Let's see what this
tonight.
That's fucking this dumbass
Donald
bitch.
Trump is certainly going to try to make it matter. He's going to say that his opponent is old and out of touch, and we're not going to probably see the Reagan. I won't make my opponent's youth and inexperience an issue. Certainly, Donald Trump and Joe Biden both want to make their opponent the worst caricature of their opponent possible. And part of the caricature of Biden is that he's, old and gumming his jello. And we'll see if that works.
Well, the former president is 78.
Yeah.
President Biden is 81. There's 3 years difference there.
That's true. The people who tend to talk about the age the most are the press, who then say, "So, President Biden is really old. What do you think?" And voters go, "Wow, I guess he's really old." I think what matters is mental acuity. And we've seen again and again, Biden, State of the Union address and other events has really shown up in big moments. And I know the Biden campaign is hoping for that tonight, to say, look, he's on top of his game. He's sharp as a tack. He shuffles a bit.
Sharp as a tack.
81's old. But mentally, he's there. He's the guy for the job. And Trump is obviously going to try to undermine that. Both campaigns are going to use tonight, pull clips from tonight, pull videos of the worst moment of their opponent possible, and say, "See, this is what my opponent's about." And there's going to be a moment where Joe Biden looks old.
So it's not about policy. It sounds a lot like about personality. And are those two issues so intertwined?
These two gazers are going to be fucking going at it with each other, calling each other dumbasses and fucking rapists and all kinds of shit.
The American people, by and large, don't vote. Or though, is my guy really up to the task? You've got Trump has been picking up points lately. One of the Democrats' arguments is there's a bit of Trump amnesia. And so what the Biden campaign wants to do is remind voters, hey, he sounds a little wacky. So those new numbers will then fade back. And again, it's not on the policy, right? If presidents ruled on what Americans wanted as public policy, we'd have a we'd have a wall along the southern border, and we'd have a lot of gun control. We have neither. What we want is somebody who can represent and stand up for our values. This is me. Here's who I want to project myself, my country to be in the White House. And again, both guys, I think, are going to want to tonight demonstrate that they're sharp. They're on top of the facts. They're rational. They're reasonable. They get the task done while simultaneously trying to goad the opponent into being the worst caricature of themselves.
Peter Loge is the chair at the School of Media and Public Affairs at George Washington University. Thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Many thanks. Always happy to join you.
As we talked about, Peter Loge was talking about their policy, their records will come up tonight, and voters will have a record for both of these candidates. That was an issue back in 2020 as well. Take a look at the two candidates talking about their political records at the first debate in Cleveland. And again, these debates, these previous debates and the vice presidential debates from all cycles can be found if you go to our website, cspan.org. If you've missed any of them, you can find it there. Again, back in 2020, talking about their political records.
Looking at both of your records, I'm going to ask each of you, why should voters elect you president over your opponent?
Because there has never been an administration or president who has done more than I've done in a period of 3.5 years. And that's despite the impeachment hoax. And you saw what happened today with Hillary Clinton, where it was a whole big con job. But despite going through all of these things where I had to fight both flanks and behind me and above, there has never been an administration that's done what I've done. The greatest, before COVID came in, the greatest economy in history, lowest unemployment numbers. Everything was good. Everything was going. And by the way, there was unity going to happen.
Sorry, I had the microphone muted. I know I have a Trump flag right here behind me, but it is hard for me to believe anything that a regular human being says. So, you know, a lot of people here worship Trump.
We become weaker, sicker, poorer, more divided, and more violent. When I was
Michigan Outpost,
we inherited a recession.
Anthony
I
Crouch.
was asked to fix it. I did. We left him
guys? We got a
booming
fucking crowd
economy,
going right now.
and he caused the
You guys know
recession.
each other. Y'all
With
know.
regard to being weaker,
Y'all
the
fucking
fact is that
cowboy.
I've gone head to head with Putin and made it clear to him we're not going to take any of his.
You know these guys? Get to know each other.
Say anything to Putin about the bounty on the heads of American soldiers.
Your son got
And-
$3.5 million.
Not sure.
A look back at the 2020.
Their microphones will be muted during this debate, though, however. During this debate, they won't be able to interrupt each other nonstop. I wish that we had some kind of app like that here. Ladies and gentlemen, real quick, we have the legendary BJJ Daddy, a.k.a. Grace the Bush. Hello, friend.
What's up?
Sitting here listening and watching this debate. Dude, we're gonna put our little quips in, you know. Watching on C-SPAN because I feel like that's like that's the news. That's like the government news channel.
I got HBO Max. They're playing it on there too.
Really?
Yeah.
I should have done mine from HBO Max.
There was talks about Elon Musk saying he will be fact checking the debate, and they want to like ban people from fact checking this or some shit like that.
I heard something about that. I wasn't 100% educated on it though. So he's gonna be fact checking everything.
Man, who knows? They might just be building this up for nothing.
It's not gonna be shit. I think there are gonna be a lot of memes that come from this.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah! Oh my god! On both sides.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, Trump's gonna be hilarious. Biden's not gonna know what the fuck is going on.
Trump's been doing fucking this shit all fucking week.
Getting pumped up, getting everything ready for this, huh?
And that's what just blows my mind. Like, it's crazy.
Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5.
But yeah, I'll be right back. I'll be off and on.
Nah, dude, do your thing, brother.
Live with Sarah campaigns inside.
Here we go, y'all.
We're live from Georgia, a key battleground state in the race for the White House. In just moments, the current U.S. president will debate the former U.S. president as
Fucking
their
supposed
party's
turd, isn't it?
presumptive nominees, a first in American history. We want to welcome our viewers in the United States and around the world to our studios in Atlanta. This is the CNN presidential debate.
This debate is being produced by CNN and is coming to you live on CNN, CNN International, CNN.com, CNN Max, and CNN Espanol. This is a pivotal moment between President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump in their rematch for the nation's highest office. Each will make his case to the American people with just over 4 months until Election Day. Good evening, I'm Dana Bash, anchor of CNN's Inside Politics and co-anchor of State of the Union.
I'm Jake Tapper, anchor of CNN's The Lead and co-anchor of State of the Union. Dana and I will co-moderate this evening. Our job is to facilitate a debate between the two candidates tonight. Before we introduce them, we want to share the rules of the debate with the audience at home. Former President Trump will be on the left side of the screen. President Biden will be appearing on the right. A coin toss.
You're on NBC. I'm on CNN. BJJ, he is on HBO Max. I don't know what HBO Max channel is, so maybe whenever he gets back, I'll ask him.
Additional minute for follow-up, clarification, or response is at the moderator's discretion.
When it's time for a candidate to speak, his microphone will be turned on and his opponent's microphone will be turned off. Should a candidate interrupt when his microphone is muted, he will be difficult to understand for viewers at home. At the end of the debate, each candidate will get 2 minutes for closing statements. There is no studio audience tonight. Pre-written notes, props, or contact with campaign staff are not permitted during the debate. By accepting our invitation to debate, both candidates and their agreed to accept these rules.
Now, please welcome the 46th President of the United States, Joe Biden.
Folks, how are you? Great to be here. Thank you.
And please welcome the 45th President of the
Biden, he's clearly a fucking clone. Look at him. That's not him. That's somebody in a fucking mask.
United States, Donald Trump. Gentlemen, thanks so much for being here. Let's begin the debate, and let's start with the issue that voters consistently say is their top concern, the economy. President Biden, inflation has slowed, but prices remain high. Since you took office, the price of essentials has increased. For example, a basket of groceries that cost $100 then now costs more than $120. And typical home prices have jumped more than 30%. What do you say to voters who feel they are worse off under your presidency than they were under President Trump?
We got to take a look at what I was left when I became president, what Mr. Trump left me. We had an economy that was in free fall. The pandemic was so badly handled. Many people were dying. All he said was, it's not that serious. Just inject a little bleach into your arm. You'll be all right. The economy collapsed. There were no jobs. Unemployment rate rose to 15%. It was terrible. And so what we had to do is try to put things back together again. And that's exactly what we began to do. We created 15,000 new jobs. We brought out a position where we have 800,000 new manufacturing jobs, but there's more to be done. There's more to be done. Working class people are still in trouble. I come from Scranton, Pennsylvania. I come of a household where the kitchen table, if the things weren't able to be met during the month, it was a problem. Price of eggs, the price of gas, the price of housing, the price of a whole range of things. That's why I'm working so hard to make sure I deal with those problems.
About his childhood.
We're going to make sure that we reduce the price of housing. We're going to make sure we build 2 million new units. We're going to make sure we cap rents so corporate greed can't take over. The combination, what I was left with in corporate greed, is the reason why we're in this problem right now. In addition to that, we're in a situation where if you take a look at all that was done in his administration, he didn't do much at all. By the time he left, things were in chaos, literally chaos. And so we put things back together. We created, I said, those jobs. We make sure we had a situation where we brought down the price of prescription drugs, which is a major issue for many people, to $15 for a insulin shot as opposed to $400. No senior has to pay more than $200 for any drug, all the drugs they can include beginning next year. And the situation is we're going to make that available to everybody, to all Americans. So we're working to bring down the price of around the kitchen table, and that's what we're going to get done.
Thank you. President Trump?
We had the greatest economy in the history of our country. We have never done so well. Everybody was amazed by it. Other countries were copying us. We got hit with COVID. And when we did, we spent the money necessary so we wouldn't end up in a Great Depression, the likes of which we had in 1929. By the time we finished, so we did a great job. We got a lot of credit for the economy, a lot of credit for the military, and no wars and so many other things. Everything was rocking good. But the thing we never got the credit for, and we should have, is getting us out of that COVID mess. He created mandates that was a disaster for our country. But other than that, we had given them back a country where the stock market actually was higher than pre-COVID, and nobody thought that was even possible. The only jobs he created are for illegal immigrants and bounce back jobs, a bounce back from the COVID. He has not done a good job. He's done a poor job, and inflation's killing our country. It is absolutely killing us.
Thank you. President Biden?
Well, look, the greatest economy in the world. He's the only one who thinks that, I think. I don't know anybody else who thinks he had the greatest economy in the world. And, you know, the fact of the matter is that we find ourselves in a situation where his economy, he rewarded the wealthy. He had the largest tax cut in American history, $2 trillion. He raised a deficit larger than any president has in any one term. He's the only president other than Herbert Hoover who's lost more jobs than he had when he began, since Herbert Hoover. The idea that he did something that was significant. And the military, you know, when he was president, they were still killing people in Afghanistan. He didn't do anything about that. When he was president, we were still finding ourselves in a position where you had a notion that we were this safe country. The truth is, I'm the only president this century that doesn't have this decade, that doesn't have any troops dying anywhere in the world like he did.
Oh, what about if we left
Trump,
Afghanistan?
I want to follow up if I can.
Am I allowed to respond to him?
Well, I'm going to ask you a follow-up. You can do whatever you want with the minute that we give you. I want to follow up. You want to impose a 10% tariff on all goods coming into the U.S. How will you ensure that that doesn't drive prices even higher?
It's not going to drive them higher. It's just going to cost countries that have been ripping us off for years, like China and many others, in all fairness to China. It's going to just force them to pay us a lot of money, reduce our deficit tremendously, and give us a lot of power for other things. But he made a statement. The only thing he was right about is I gave you the largest tax cut in history. I also gave you the largest regulation cut in history. That's why we had all the jobs. And the jobs went down and then they bounced back. And he's taking credit for bounce back jobs. You can't do that. He also said he inherited 9% inflation. No, he inherited almost no inflation, and it stayed that way for 14 months. And then it blew up under his leadership because they spent money like a bunch of people that didn't know what they were doing, and they don't know what they were doing. It was the worst, probably the worst administration in history. There's never been. And as far as Afghanistan is concerned, I was getting out of Afghanistan, but we were getting out with dignity, with strength, with power. He got out. It was the most embarrassing day in the history of our country's life.
President Trump, over the last 8 years, under both of your administrations, the national debt soared to record highs. And according to a new nonpartisan analysis, President Trump, your administration approved $8.4 trillion in new debt, while so far, President Biden, you've approved $4.3 trillion in new debt. So, former President Trump, many of the tax cuts that you signed into law are set to expire next year. You want to extend them and go even further, you say. With the U.S. facing trillion-dollar deficits and record debt, why should top earners and corporations pay even less in taxes than they do now?
Because the tax cuts spurred the greatest economy that we've ever seen just prior to COVID. And even after COVID, it was so strong that we were able to get through COVID much better than just about any other country. But we spurred, that tax spurred. Now, when we cut the taxes, as an example, the corporate tax was cut down to 21% from 39%, plus beyond that. We took in more revenue with much less tax, and companies were bringing back trillions of dollars back into our country. The country was going like never before, and we were ready to start paying down debt. We were ready to start using the liquid gold right under our feet, the oil and gas right under our feet. We were going to have something that nobody else has had. We got hit with COVID. We did a lot to fix it. I gave him an unbelievable situation with all of the therapeutics and all of the things that we came up with. We gave him something great. Remember, more people died under his administration, even though we had largely fixed it. More people died under his administration than our administration, and we were right in the middle of it, something which a lot of people don't like to talk about. But he had far more people dying in his administration. He did the mandate, which is a disaster, mandating it. The vaccine went out. He did a mandate on the vaccine, which is the thing that people most objected to about the vaccine. And he did a very poor job, just a very poor job. And I will tell you, not only poor there, but throughout the entire world, we're no longer respected as a country. They don't respect our leadership. They don't respect the United States anymore. We're like a third world nation between weaponization of his election, trying to go after his political opponent, all of the things he's done. We've become like a third world nation, and it's a shame. The damage he's done to our country. And I'd love to ask him, and will, why he allowed millions of people to come in here from prisons, jails, and mental institutions to come into our country and destroy our country.
President Trump, we will get to immigration later in this block. President Biden, I want to give you an opportunity to respond to this question about the national debt.
He had the largest national debt of any president in a 4-year period, number one. Number two, that $2 trillion tax cut benefited the very wealthy. What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have trillionaires in America. I mean, billionaires in America. And what's happening? They're in a situation where they, in fact, pay 8.2% in taxes. If they just paid 24%, 25%, either one of those numbers, they'd raise $500 billion, I should say, in a 10-year period. We'd be able to wipe out his debt. We'd be able to help make sure that all those things we need to do, childcare, elder care, making sure that we continue to strengthen our healthcare system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID, excuse me, with dealing with everything we have to do with, look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
Well, you're right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare because all of these people are coming in. They're putting them on Medicare. They're putting them on Social Security. They're going to destroy Social Security. This man is going to single-handedly destroy Social Security. These millions and millions of people coming in, they're trying to put them on Social Security. He will wipe out Social Security. He will wipe out Medicare. So he was right in the way he finished that sentence. And it's a shame. What's happened to our country in the last 4 years is not to be believed. Foreign countries, I'm friends with a lot of people, they cannot believe what happened to the United States of America. We're no longer respected. They don't like us. We give them everything they want, and they think we're stupid. They think we're very stupid people. What we're doing for other countries, and they do nothing for us. What this man has done is absolutely criminal.
Thank you, President Trump. Dana?
This is the first presidential election since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. This morning, the court ruled on yet another abortion case, temporarily allowing emergency abortions to continue in Idaho, despite that state's restrictive ban. Former President Trump, you take credit for the decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, which returned the issue of abortion to the states.
Correct.
However, the federal government still plays a role in whether or not women have access to abortion pills. They're used in about 2/3 of all abortions. As president, would you block abortion medication?
First of all, the Supreme Court just approved the abortion pill, and I agree with their decision to have done that, and I will not block it. And if you look at this whole question that you're asking, complex, but not really complex. 51 years ago, you had Roe v. Wade, and everybody wanted to get it back to the states. Everybody, without exception. Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives, everybody wanted it back. Religious leaders. And what I did is I put 3 great Supreme Court justices on the court, and they happened to vote in favor of killing Roe v. Wade and moving it back to the states. This is something that everybody wanted. Now, 10 years ago or so, they started talking about how many weeks and how many this, getting into other things. But every legal scholar throughout the world, the most respected, wanted it brought back to the states. I did that. Now the states are working it out. If you look at Ohio, it was a decision that was, an end result that was a little bit more liberal than you would have thought. Kansas, I would say the same thing. Texas is different. Florida is different. But they're all making their own decisions right now. And right now, the states control it. That's the vote of the people. Like Ronald Reagan, I believe in the exceptions. I am a person that believes. And frankly, I think it's important to believe in the exceptions. Some people, you have to follow your heart. Some people don't believe in that. But I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. I think it's very important. Some people don't. Follow your heart. But you have to get elected also. And because that has to do with other things, you got to get elected. The problem they have is they're radical because they will take the life of a child in the 8th month, the 9th month, and even after birth. After birth, if you look at the former governor of Virginia, he was willing to do this. He said, we'll put the baby aside and we'll determine what we do with the baby, meaning we'll kill the baby. What happened is we brought it back to the states, and the country is now coming together on this issue. It's been a great thing.
Thank you. President Biden?
It's been a terrible thing, what you've done. The fact is that the vast majority of constitutional scholars supported Roe when it was decided, supported Roe. And that's this idea that they're all against it is just ridiculous. And this is the guy who says the state should be able to have it. We're in a state where in 6 weeks, you don't even know whether you're pregnant or not, but you cannot see a doctor, and have him decide on what your circumstances are, whether you need help. The idea that states are able to do this is a little like saying we're going to turn civil rights back to the states. Let each state have a different rule. Look, there's so many young women who have been, including a young woman who just was murdered, and he went to the funeral. The idea that she was murdered by an immigrant coming in, they talk about that. But here's the deal: there's a lot of young women who are being raped by their in-laws, by their spouses, brothers and sisters, it's just ridiculous, and they can do nothing about it. And they try to arrest them when they cross state lines.
Thank you.
There have been many young women murdered by the same people he allows to come across our border. We have a border that's the most dangerous place anywhere in the world, considered the most dangerous place anywhere in the world. And he opened it up, and these killers are coming into our country, and they are raping and killing women. And it's a terrible thing. As far as the abortion is concerned, it is now back with the states. The states are voting. In many cases, it's frankly a very liberal decision. In many cases, it's the opposite. But they're voting, and it's bringing it back to the vote of the people, which is what everybody wanted, including the founders, if they knew about this issue, which frankly they didn't. But they would have, everybody wanted brought back. Ronald Reagan wanted it brought back. He wasn't able to get it. Everybody wanted it brought back, and many presidents had tried to get it back. I was the one to do it. And again, this gives it the vote of the people, and that's where they wanted it. Every legal scholar wanted it that way.
Staying on the topic of abortion, President Biden, 7 states, I'll let you do that. This is the same topic. 7 states have no legal restrictions on how far into a pregnancy a woman can obtain an abortion. Do you support any legal limits on how late a woman should be able to terminate a pregnancy?
I supported Roe v. Wade, which had 3 trimesters. First time is between the woman and the doctor. Second time is between the doctor and an extreme situation. The third time is between the doctor, between the woman and the state. The idea that the politicians, that the founders wanted the politicians to be the ones making decisions about women's health is ridiculous. That's the last. No politician should be making that decision. A doctor should be making those decisions. That's how it should be run. That's what you're going to do. And if I'm elected, I'm going to restore Roe v. Wade.
So that means he can take the life of the baby in the 9th month and even after birth, because some states, Democrat run, take it after birth. Again, the former governor of Virginia, put the baby down, then we decide what to do with it. So he's willing to, as we say, rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month and kill the baby. Nobody wants that to happen, Democrat or Republican. Nobody wants it to happen.
That is simply not true. The Roe v. Wade does not provide for that. That's not the circumstance. Only if a woman's life is in danger, she's going to die. That's the only circumstance in which that can happen. But we are not for late-term abortion, period.
Under Roe v. Wade, you have late-term abortion. You can do whatever you want, depending on the state. You can do whatever you want. We don't think that's a good thing. We think it's a radical thing. We think the Democrats are the radicals, not the Republicans.
For 51 years, that was the law. 51 years, constitutional scholarship said it was the right way to go. 51 years, and it was taken away because this guy put very conservative members on the Supreme Court. He takes credit for taking it away. What's he going to do? What's he going to do? In fact, if the MAGA Republicans, he gets elected and the MAGA Republicans control the Congress and they pass a universal ban on abortion, period, across the board at 6 weeks or 7 or 8 or 10 weeks, something very, very conservative. Is he going to sign that bill? I'll veto it. He'll sign it.
Thank you.
Let's turn now to the issue of immigration and border security. President Biden, a record number of migrants have illegally crossed the southern border on your watch. Overwhelming border states and overburdening cities such as New York and Chicago, and in some cases causing real safety and security concerns. Given that, why should voters trust you to solve this crisis?
Because we worked very hard to get a bipartisan agreement that not only changed all of that, it made sure that we are in a situation where you had no circumstance where they could come across the border with the number of border police there are now. We significantly increased the number of asylum officers, significantly. By the way, the Border Patrol endorsed my position. In addition to that, we find ourselves in a situation where when he was president, he was separating babies from their mothers, putting them in cages, making sure the families were separated. That's not the right way to go. What I've done since I've changed the law, what's happened? I've changed it in a way that now you're in a situation where there are 40% fewer people coming across the border illegally. That's better than when he left office. And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look, we had the safest border in the history of our country.
Look at Biden's face.
All he had to do was leave it. He decided to open up our border, open up our country to people that are from prisons, people that are from mental institutions, insane asylum, terrorists. We have the largest number of terrorists coming into our country right now, all terrorists all over the world, not just in South America, all over the world. They come from the Middle East, everywhere, all over the world, they're pouring in. And this guy just left it open. And he didn't need legislation because I didn't have legislation. I said, close the border. We had the safest border in history. In that final couple of months of my presidency, we had, according to Border Patrol, who is great, and by the way, who endorsed me for president, but I won't say that, but they endorsed me for president. Brandon, just speak to him. But look, we had the safest border in history. Now we have the worst border in history. There's never been anything like it. And people are dying all over the place, including the people that are coming up in
Thank you,
caravans.
President Trump. President Biden?
The only terrorist who's done anything crossing the border is one who came along and killed three, under his administration, killed an Al-Qaeda person come in his administration, kill 3 American soldiers. That's the only terrorist that's there. I'm not saying no terrorist ever got through, but the idea they're emptying their prisons, we're welcoming these people. That's simply not true. There's no data to support what he said. Once again, he's exaggerating. He's lying.
President Trump, staying on the topic of immigration, you've said that you're going to carry out, quote, the largest domestic deportation operation in American history, unquote. Does that mean that you will deport every undocumented immigrant in America, including those who have jobs, including those whose spouses are citizens, and including those who have lived here for decades? And if so, how will you do it?
Just 1 second. He said we killed 3 people. The people we killed are al-Baghdadi and Soleimani, the 2 greatest terrorists, biggest terrorists anywhere in the world. And it had a huge impact on everything, not just border, on everything. He's the one that killed people with the bad water, including hundreds of thousands of people dying and also killing our citizens when they come in. We are living right now in a rat's nest. They're killing our people in New York, in California, in every
I had to have the subtitles on for when Biden speaks.
state is now a border. And because of his ridiculous, insane, and very stupid policies, people are coming in and they're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen. We call it migrant crime. I call it Biden migrant crime. They're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen before. And you're reading it like these 3 incredible young girls over the last few days. One of them, I just spoke to the mother, and they just had the funeral for this girl, 12 years old. This is horrible what's taken place. What's taken place in our country, we're literally an uncivilized country now. He doesn't want it to be. He just doesn't know. He opened the borders. Nobody's ever seen anything like. And we have to get a lot of these people out, and we have to get them out fast because they're going to destroy our country. Just take a look at where they're living. They're living in luxury hotels in New York City and other places. Our veterans are on the street. They're dying because he doesn't care about our veterans. He doesn't care. He doesn't like the military at all. And he doesn't care about our veterans. Nobody been worse. I had the highest approval rating for veterans taking care of the VA. He has the worst. He's gotten rid of all the things that I approved. Choice that I got through Congress, all of the different things I approved, they abandoned. We had by far the highest, and now it's down in less than half because he's done all these great things that we did. And I think he did it just because I approved it, which is crazy. But he has killed so many people at our border by allowing all of these people to come in. And it's a very sad day in America.
President Biden, you have the mic.
Every single thing he said is a lie. Every single one. For example, veterans are a hell of a lot better off since I passed the PACT Act. 1 million of them now have insurance and their families have it. Their families have it because what happened, whether it was Agent Orange or burn pits, they're all being covered now. And he opposed, his group opposed that. We're also in a situation where we have great respect for veterans. My son spent a year in Iraq, living next to one of those burn pits, came back with stage 4 glioblastoma. I was recently in France for D-Day, and I spoke all about those heroes that died. I went to the World War I cemetery he refused to go to. He was standing with his 4-star general, and he told me, he said, I don't want to go in there because they're a bunch of losers and suckers. My son was not a loser, was not a sucker. You're the sucker. You're the loser.
President Trump?
First of all, that was a made-up quote, suckers and losers. They made it up. It was in a third-rate magazine that's failing, like many of these magazines. He made that up. He put it in commercials. We've notified him. We had 19 people that said I didn't say it. And think of this. Who would say I'm at a cemetery or I'm talking about our veterans? Because nobody's taken better care. I'm so glad this came up and he brought it up. There's nobody that's taken better care of our soldiers than I have. To think that I would, in front of generals and others, say suckers and losers. We have 19 people that said it was never said by me. It was made up by him, just like Russia was made up, just like the 51 intelligence agents are made up. Just like the new thing with the 16 economists are talking, it's the same thing.
Do y'all
51
see
intelligence
Biden's
agents
face?
said that the laptop was Russia disinformation. It wasn't. That came from his son, Hunter. It wasn't Russia disinformation. He made up the suckers and losers, so he should apologize to me right now.
4-star general standing to your side who was on your staff who said you said it, period. That's number one. And number two, the idea that I have to apologize to you for anything along the line. We've done more for veterans than any president has in American history. And they now are their family. The only sacred obligation we have as a country is to care for our veterans when they come home and their families and equip them when they go to war. That's what we're doing. That's what the VA is doing now. They're doing more for veterans than ever before in our history.
All right. Thank you so much.
Let's move to the topic of foreign policy. I want to begin with Russia's war against Ukraine, which is now in its 3rd year. Former President Trump, Russian President Vladimir Putin says he'll only end this war if Russia keeps the Ukrainian territory it has already claimed and Ukraine abandons its bid to join NATO. Are Putin's terms acceptable to you?
First of all, our veterans and our soldiers can't stand this guy. They can't stand him. They think he's the worst commander-in-chief, if that's what you call him, that we've ever had. They can't stand him. So let's get that straight. And they like me more than just about any of them. And that's based on every single bit of information. As far as Russia and Ukraine, if we had a real president, the president that knew, that was respected by Putin, he would have never invaded Ukraine. A lot of people are dead right now, much more than people know. You know, they talk about numbers. You can double those numbers, maybe triple those numbers. He did nothing to stop it. In fact, I think he encouraged Russia from going in. I'll tell you what happened. He was so bad with Afghanistan. It was such a horrible embarrassment, most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, that when Putin watched that and he saw the incompetence, that he should have fired those generals, like I fired the one that you mentioned. And so he's got no love lost, but he should have fired those generals. No general got fired for the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, Afghanistan, where we left billions of dollars of equipment behind. We lost 13 beautiful soldiers and 38 soldiers were obliterated. And by the way, we left people behind too. We left American citizens behind. When Putin saw that, he said, you know what? I think we're going to go in and maybe take this was his dream. I talked to him about it, his dream. The difference is he never would have invaded Ukraine. Never. Just like Israel would have never been invaded in a million years by Hamas. You know why? Because Iran was broke with me. I wouldn't let anybody do business with them. They ran out of money. They were broke. They had no money for Hamas. They had no money for anything, no money for terror. That's why you had no terror at all during my administration. This place, the whole world is blowing up under him.
President Biden?
I've never heard so much malarkey in my whole life. Look,
Malarkey.
the fact of the matter is that we're in a situation where, let's take the last point first. Iran attacked American troops, caused brain damage for a number of these troops, and he did nothing about it. Recently, not when he was president, they attacked. He said they're just having headaches. That's all it is. He didn't do a thing when the attack took place, number one. Number two, we got over 100,000 Americans and others out of Afghanistan during that airlift. Number three, we found ourselves in a situation where, if you take a look at what Trump did in Ukraine, this guy told Trump.
That's because he's not really Biden. That's a guy in the CIA 5-second mode.
And he went in. Listen to what he said when he went in. He was going to take Kyiv in 5 days, remember? Because it's part of the old Soviet Union. That's what he wanted to reestablish, Kyiv. And he, in fact, didn't do it at all. He wasn't able to get it done. And they've lost thousands and thousands of troops, 500,000 troops.
President Trump,
I never said that.
For 1 minute, I just want to go back to my original question, which is, are Putin's terms acceptable to you? Keeping the territory in Ukraine?
No, they're not acceptable. But look, this is a war that never should have started. If we had a leader in this war, he led everybody along. He's given $200 billion now or more to Ukraine. He's given $200 billion. That's a lot of money. I don't think there's ever been anything like it. Every time that Zelensky comes to this country, he walks away with $60 billion. He's the greatest salesman ever. And I'm not knocking him. I'm not knocking anything. I'm only saying the money that we're spending on this war, and we shouldn't be spending, it should have never happened. I will have that war settled between Putin and Zelensky as president-elect before I take office on January 20th. I'll have that war settled. People being killed so needlessly, so stupidly, and I will get it settled, and I'll get it settled fast before I take office.
President Biden, you have a minute.
The fact is that Putin is a war criminal. He's killed thousands and thousands of people. And he has made one thing clear. He wants to reestablish what was part of the Soviet Empire, not just a piece. He wants all of Ukraine. That's what he wants. And then you think he'll stop there? Do you think he'll stop when if he takes Ukraine? What do you think happens to Poland? What do you think of Belarus? What do you think happens to those NATO countries? And so if you want a war, you ought to find out what he's going to do, because if in fact he does what he says and walks away, by the way, all that money we give Ukraine are from weapons we make here in the United States. We give them the weapons, not the money at this point. And our NATO allies have produced as much funding for Ukraine as we have. That's why we're strong.
Thank you. Moving on to the Middle East. In October, Hamas attacked Israel, killing more than 1,000 people and taking hundreds of hostages. Among those held and thought to still be alive are 5 Americans. Israel's response has killed thousands of Palestinians and created a humanitarian crisis in Gaza. President Biden, you've put forward a proposal to resolve this conflict, but so far Hamas has not released the remaining hostages, and Israel is continuing its military offensive in Gaza. So what additional leverage will you use to get Hamas and Israel to end the war? You have 2 minutes.
Number one, everyone from the United Nations Security Council straight through to the G7 to the Israelis and Netanyahu himself have endorsed the plan I put forward, which has 3 stages to it. The first stage is trade the hostages for a ceasefire. Second phase is a ceasefire with additional conditions. The third phase is the end of the war. The only one who wants the war to continue is Hamas, number one. They're the only ones standing out. We're still pushing hard to get them to accept. In the meantime, what's happened In Israel, we're finding that the only thing I've denied Israel was 2,000-pound bombs. They don't work very well in populated areas. They kill a lot of innocent people. We're providing Israel with all the weapons they need and when they need them. And by the way, I'm the guy that organized the world against Iran when they had a full-blown intercontinental ballistic missile attack on Israel. No one was hurt. No one Israeli was accidentally killed, and it just stopped. We saved Israel. We are the biggest producer of support for Israel of anyone in the world. And so they're two different things. Hamas cannot be allowed to be continued. We continue to send our experts and our intelligence people as to how they can get Hamas like we did bin Laden. You don't have to do it. And by the way, they've been greatly weakened, Hamas, greatly weakened, and they should be. They should be eliminated. But you've got to be careful for what using certain weapons among population centers.
Just going back to Ukraine for 1 second. We have an ocean separating us. The European nations together have spent 100 billion or maybe more than that, less than us. Why doesn't he call them? So you got to put up your money like I did with NATO. I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. The secretary.
Yeah, this shit is pretty funny. Trump's taking it kind of soft on him.
Percent of the money was paid by us. He didn't do that. He's getting all. You got to ask these people to put up the money. We're over $100 billion more spent, and it has a bigger impact on them because of location, because we have an ocean in between. You got to ask them. As far as Israel and Hamas, Israel's the one that wants to go. He said the only one that wants to keep going is Hamas. Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish the job. He doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian, but they don't like him because he's a very bad Palestinian. He's a weak one.
President Biden, you have a minute.
I've never heard so much foolishness. This is a guy who wants to get out of NATO. Are you going to stay in NATO? He's going to pull out of NATO. The idea that we have our strength lies in our alliances as well. It may be a big ocean, but we're ever able to avoid a war in Europe, a major war in Europe? What happens if, in fact, you have Putin continue to go into NATO? We have an Article 5 agreement. Attack on one is attack on all. You want to start the nuclear war he keeps talking about, go ahead. Let Putin go in and control Ukraine and then move on to Poland and other places. You see what happens then. He has no idea what the hell he's talking about. And by the way, I got 50 other nations around the world to support Ukraine, including Japan and South Korea, because they understand that this kind of dislocation has a serious threat to the whole world peace. No major war in Europe has ever been able to be contained just to Europe.
President Trump, just to follow up, would you support the creation of an independent Palestinian state in order to achieve peace in the region?
I'd have to see. But before we do that, the problem we have is that we spend all the money. So they kill us on trade. I made great trade deals with the European nations because if you add them up, they're about the same size economically. Their economy is about the same size as the United States. And they were no cars, they don't want anything that we have, but we're supposed to take their cars, their food, their everything, their agriculture. I changed that. But the big thing I changed is they don't want to pay. And the only reason that he can play games with NATO is because I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. I said, and he's right about this, I said, no, I'm not going to support NATO if you don't pay. They asked me that question. Would you guard us against Russia at a very secret meeting of the 28 states at that time, nations at that time? And they said, no, if you don't pay, I won't do that. And you know what happened? Billions and billions of dollars came flowing in the next day and the next months. But now we're in the same position. We're paying everybody's bills.
Let's turn to the issue of democracy. Former President Trump, I want to ask you about January 6, 2021. After you rallied your supporters that day, some of them stormed the Capitol to stop the constitutionally mandated counting of electoral votes. As president, you swore an oath to, quote, preserve, protect, and defend, unquote, the Constitution. What do you say to voters who believe that you violated that oath through your actions and inaction on January 6th and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I don't think too many believe that. And let me tell you about January 6th. On January 6th, we had a great border. Nobody coming through, very few. On January 6th, we were energy independent. On January 6th, we had the lowest taxes ever. We had the lowest regulations ever. On January 6th, we were respected all over the world. All over the world, we were respected. And then he comes in, and we're now laughed at. We're like a bunch of stupid people. That what happened to the United States' reputation under this man's leadership is horrible, including weaponization, which I'm sure at some point you'll be talking about, where he goes after his political opponent because he can't beat him fair and square.
You have 80 seconds left. My question was, what do you say to those voters who believe that you violated your constitutional oath through your actions and inaction on January 6, 2021, and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I didn't say that to anybody. I said peacefully and patriotically. And Nancy Pelosi, if you just watched the news from 2 days ago, on tape to her daughter, who's a documentary filmmaker, they say, but she's saying, oh, no, it's my responsibility. I was responsible for this because I offered her 10,000 soldiers or National Guard, and she turned them down. And the mayor of, in writing, by the way, the mayor in writing turned it down, the mayor of D.C. They turned it down. I offered 10,000 because I could see, I had virtually nothing to do. They asked me to go make a speech. I could see what was happening. Everybody was saying they're going to be there on January 6th. They're going to be there. And I said, you know what? There's a lot of people coming. You could feel it. You could feel it too, and you could feel it. And I said, they ought to have some National Guard or whatever. And I offered it to her. And she now admits that she turned it down. And it was the same day she was, I don't know, she can't be very happy with her daughter because it made her into a liar. She said, I take full responsibility for January 6th.
President Biden?
Look, he encouraged those folks to go up on Capitol Hill, number one. I sat in the dining room off the Oval Office. He sat there for 3 hours watching, begging, being begged by his vice president and a number of his colleagues on the Republican side as well to do something, to call for a stop, to end it. Instead, they talked about these people being patriots and great patrons of America. In fact, he says he'll now forgive them for what they've done. They've been convicted. He says he wants to commute their sentences and say that no. But he went to every single court in the nation. I don't know how many cases, scores of cases, including the Supreme Court. And they said, no, this guy is responsible for doing what was done. He did do a damn thing. And these people should be in jail. And they should be the ones who are being held accountable. And he wants to let them all out. And now he says if he loses again, such a whiner that he is, that it could be a bloodbath.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
What they've done to some people that are so innocent, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. What you have done, how you've destroyed the lives of so many people. When they ripped down Portland, when they ripped down many other cities, you go to Minnesota, Minneapolis, what they've done there, with the fires all over the city. If I didn't bring in the National Guard, that city would have been destroyed. When you look at all of they took over big chunks of Seattle. I was all set to bring in the National Guard. They heard that, they saw them coming, and they left immediately. What he said about this whole subject is so off. Peacefully patriotic. One other thing, the Unselect Committee, which is basically two horrible Republicans that are all gone now out of office, and Democrats, all Democrats, they destroyed and deleted all of the information they found because they found out we were right. We were right. And they deleted and destroyed all of the information. They should go to jail for that. If a Republican did that, they'd go to jail.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, I want to give you a minute.
The only person on this stage is a convicted felon is the man I'm looking at right now. And the fact of the matter is, what he's telling you is simply not true. The fact is that there was no effort on his part to stop what was going on up in Capitol Hill. And all those people, every one of those who were convicted.
Yeah, Biden needs his nap time now for sure.
Occupied offices, turned over desks, turned them over statues. The idea that those people are patriots, come on. When I asked him the first two debates we had, first time around, I said, will you denounce the Proud Boys? He said, no, I'll tell them to stand by. The idea he's refusing, will you denounce these guys? Will you denounce the people we're talking about now? Will you denounce the people who attacked that Capitol? What are you going to do?
I'm going to give you a minute, President Trump, for a follow-up question I have. After a jury convicted you of 34 felonies last month, you said if reelected, you would, quote, have every right to go after, unquote, your political opponents. You just talked about members of the Select Committee on January 6th going to jail. Your main political opponent is standing on stage with you tonight. Can you clarify exactly what it means about you feeling you have every right to go after your political opponents?
Well, I said my retribution is going to be success. We're going to make this country successful again, because right now it's a failing nation. My retribution is going to be success. But when he talks about a convicted felon, his son is a convicted felon at a very high level. His son is convicted, going to be convicted probably numerous other times. Should have been convicted before, but his Justice Department let the statute of limitations lapse on the most important things. But he could be a convicted felon as soon as he gets out of office. Joe could be a convicted felon with all of the things that he's done. He's done horrible things. All of the death caused at the border, telling the Ukrainian people that we're going to want $1 billion or you change the prosecutor. Otherwise, you're not getting $1 billion. If I ever said that, that's quid pro quo. That we're not going to do anything. We're not going to give you $1 billion unless you change your prosecutor, having to do with the son. This man is a criminal. This man, you're lucky. You're lucky. I did nothing wrong. We'd have a system that was rigged and disgusting. I did nothing wrong.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, you have said, I'm coming right to you, sir. You want to respond? Go ahead. I'll give you a minute to respond.
The idea that I did anything wrong relative to what you're talking about is outrageous. It's simply a lie, number one. Number two, the idea that you have a right to seek retribution against any American just because you're president is wrong. It's simply wrong. No president's ever spoken like that before. No president in our history has spoken like that before. Number three, the crimes that you are still charged with, and think of all the civil penalties you have. How many billions of dollars do you owe in civil penalties for molesting a woman in public, for doing a whole range of things, of having sex with a porn star on the night while your wife was pregnant? I mean, what are you talking about? You have the morals of an alley cat.
Compared to what Biden's done.
Number one. Number two, that was a case that was started and moved. They moved a high-ranking official, a DOJ, into the Manhattan DA's office to start that case. That case is going to be appealed and won. We had a very terrible judge, a horrible judge, Democrat. The prosecutor were all high-ranking Democrats, appointed people, and both the civil and the criminal. He basically went after his political opponent because he thought it was going to damage me. But when the public found out about these cases, because they understand it better than he does, he has no idea what these cases are. But when they found out about these cases, you know what they did? My poll.
It's either a brain bug or got to be something. There's something. He probably partied too hard back in the 70s. But I'm convinced this is a CIA agent. Wearing a 5-second mask or a clone.
Opponent, because he can't win fair and square.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, you have said, quote, Donald Trump and his MAGA Republicans are determined to destroy American democracy. Do you believe that the tens of millions of Americans who are likely to vote for President Trump will be voting against American democracy?
The more they know about what he's done, yes.
Maybe it's an alien parasite.
Is down the road coming around. He's got a whole range of issues he has to face. I don't know what the juries will do, but I do know he has a real problem. And so the fact that, could you ever think you heard any president say that I'm going to seek retribution? Do you ever hear any president say that I thought Hitler had some good ideas? What got me involved to run in the first place after my son had died, I decided in Iraq, because of Iraq, I said I wasn't going to run again. Until I saw what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia. People coming out of the woods carrying swastikas on torches, and singing the same anti-Semitic bile they sang when back in Germany. And the young woman got killed. I spoke to the mother, and they asked him. They said, "What do you think of those people? The ones that got killed, the one that tried to stop it, and the ones," he said, "I think they're fine people on both sides." What American president would ever say Nazis coming out of fields carrying torches, singing the same anti-Semitic bile, carrying swastikas were fine people? This is a guy who says Hitler's done some good things. I'd like to know what they are. The good things Hitler's done, that's what he said. This guy has no sense of American democracy.
Hitler did some good things.
President Trump.
Jake, both of you know that story has been totally wiped out, because when you see the sentence, it said 100% exoneration on this. So he just keeps it going. He says he ran because of Charlottesville. He didn't run because of Charlottesville.
Look at
He
his
ran because it was
fucking
his last
face.
chance. He's not equipped to be president. You know it, and I know it. It's ridiculous. We have a debate. We're trying to justify his presidency. His presidency, he's without question the worst president, the worst presidency in the history of our country. We shouldn't be having a debate about it. There's nothing to debate. He made up the Charlottesville story, and you'll see it's debunked all over the place. Every reasonable anchor has debunked it. And just the other day, it came out where it was fully debunked. It's a
Yeah, the Nazis secretly won World War II and infiltrated the governments of the world. No, I don't know. That's one of the conspiracies, but if they would have won the war, then I think all diseases would have been destroyed, all the environment would have been under control by now, and I think the world would be more scientifically advanced. Just my opinion, my theory.
Carrying those torches, then he didn't deserve to be president. Didn't deserve to be president at all. And the idea that he's talking about all this being fabricated, we saw with our own eyes. We saw what happened on January 6th. We saw the people.
They just went to commercial. Oh, this one's a little bit behind.
This one's behind. What's going on? What's going on?
40 of his 44 top cabinet
How far
officers
behind is
refused
it?
to endorse him this
Well, I
time.
don't
It's not
have
that behind.
anything Biden has been fucking talking about, son.
Yeah, dude, he's just talking on his ass.
Yeah, he was talking about when they talking about the Palestine situation. He couldn't help but to ask him. He couldn't help but to ask. He couldn't help but to start talking about damn Ukraine.
I know. It's just a bunch of just fucking bullshit. Trump schooling his fucking ass.
Yeah, there are people. I was reading some articles. They were talking shit about Trump, saying that he wasn't going to be there mentally and that he was going to be retarded during this.
Oh yeah, not a chance.
No, hell no. Look at how Biden
is fucking trying not to fall asleep, and like he sounds like a fucking like he's dying.
Yeah, I'm convinced
Sounds
it's
like
like they knew what they was doing. There's no way they purposefully would put that man up there like that, dude. You know,
Fuck no.
You know, unless there was a reason to make them look stupid.
And like, if you really, I've been like looking at his eyes. I feel like he's like reading shit, like reading a teleprompter, reading something. Like he knows what they're about to be asking. You know what I mean? And he still fucking sounds like a dipshit.
He sounds like one of the most retarded bastards. It's like somebody you see like that in public. It's like the old man that shit his pants and shit all over the floor at my job the other day.
Wow, yeah.
That's how he was talking. That's how, because that was also my table before he shit all over the floor. You know, I got my vice president fucking here with me on the stream right now.
Huh?
Mets and BJJ Daddy 2024. But
Vivek Ramaswamy is going to be Trump's vice president.
Is that already been established?
I'm not sure, but I've just been hearing only that, so I'm just assuming that that's going to be the case.
He's a gangster, dude.
Yeah, I like that guy.
Yes.
He's awesome.
I don't like how people are dumbasses though, and they be thinking that Vivek is like a Muslim terrorist or some shit.
Oh no, dude! I just don't understand how anybody could sit here and watch this and be like, "Oh yeah, Biden knows what he's talking. Biden's on his shit tonight."
There's
like, no,
like that. I guarantee Travis Hoop is one of them.
And you see how Trump talked about the abortion and shit. He's for the abortion pill, so they can't fucking be saying Trump's against it anymore. He says for medical reasons to save people's lives, and that's how it's been this whole time. I like how he said that at the very beginning.
Yeah, his reasons for being for abortion are solid reasons. I'd have like his.
And there's a Roe v. Wade or whatever it's fucking called, like that late term abortion shit is the only thing he's against. He doesn't think that you should be able to abort the child after birth or 9 months into birth, which is, that makes sense.
Of course, dude. In places like California, they will, but then they'll just harvest the organs. They'll harvest the skin of the child.
Mm-hmm. And they'll put it in makeup.
Yeah, exactly. And they'll the stem cell. Smoke Cowboy had said that Biden looked like he was about to overdose on stem cell. Probably just fucking eats the baby raw, straight out the woman's snatch.
Yeah, that motherfucker's so pale.
Fucking sick and twisted. He looks fucked up, don't he?
Yeah, there's 6 people watching right now. That's pretty cool.
That's what's up. That's what's
I guess they're just taking a Biden break.
Yeah, they had to give Biden a second to kind of get the shit together.
I've noticed how like twice they've like given Biden that extra minute to respond, and they don't really even think about it. Like, because they were like going to the next question. They're like, well, we'll go ahead and give you a minute to respond, Mr. President. All right, what's this? Is it back?
Motherfucker's old as fuck.
Both
I'm gonna go hit a
first
cigarette while you're
terms,
out. You can feel
and
free
you'd
to
certainly
talk.
face again in the
I'm
second
probably about
term.
to head out again, but I'm gonna stay. I'm gonna go
While
outside.
Black
Keep on
unemployment
popping
dropped
in and
to
out
a
with things,
record
all
low
right.
under your presidency, Black families still earn far less
Oh, Black
than white
families, dude,
families.
that applies to me
Black
and you.
mothers are still 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related causes, and Black Americans are imprisoned at 5 times the rate of white Americans. What do you say to Black voters who are disappointed that you haven't made more progress?
They acknowledge
Fuck
they made a
yeah,
lot of
everybody's
progress.
coming out. Let's all
Fact of
start
the matter
fucking
is,
partying
small
and
Black
talking. We all
businesses
smoking
that
weed,
started
listening to
any
these
time
2
in
old
history.
bastards. Fuck.
Number 2, the
Drinking,
wages of
I can't drink.
Black unemployment is the lowest level it's been in a long, long time. Number 3, we're providing housing for Black Americans and dealing with the segregation that exists among these corporations that collude to keep people out of their houses. And in addition to that, we find that the impact on the choice
Today, Junior.
relative to childcare is incredibly difficult. When we did the first major piece of legislation in the past, I was able to reduce Black childcare costs. I cut them in half. We got to make sure we provide for childcare costs. We got to make sure because when you provide those childcare protections, you increase economic growth because more people can be in the job market. So there's more to be done, considerably more to be done. But we've done a great deal so far, and I'm not letting up, and they know it.
You have 49 seconds left. What do you say to Black voters who are disappointed with the progress so far?
I say I don't blame them for being disappointed. Inflation is still hurting them badly. For example, I provided for the idea that any Black family first-time home buyer should get a $10,000 tax credit to be able to buy their first home so they can get started. I made
Why
sure
only
that we're
Black
in a situation
families?
where all
That's
those Black
gay.
families and those Black individuals who provided had to take out student loans that were ballooning, that if they were engaged in nursing, doctor, and anything having to do with volunteerism, if they paid their bills for 10 years on their student debt, all the rest was forgiven after 10 years. Millions have benefited from that. And we're going to do a whole lot more for Black families.
Thank you, President Trump.
And he caused the inflation. He's blaming inflation, and he's right. It's been very bad. He caused the inflation, and it's killing Black families and Hispanic families and just about everybody. It's killing people. They can't buy groceries anymore. They can't. You look at the cost of food where it's doubled and tripled and quadrupled. They can't live. They're not living anymore. He caused this inflation. I gave him a country with essentially no inflation. It was perfect. It was so good. All he had to do is leave it alone. He destroyed it with his Green New scam and all this money that's being thrown out the window. He caused inflation. As sure as you're sitting there, the fact is that his big kill on the Black people is the millions of people that he's allowed to come in through the border. They're taking Black jobs now, and it could be 18, it could be 19 and even 20 million people. They're taking Black jobs and they're taking Hispanic jobs, and you haven't seen it yet, but you're going to see something that's going to be the worst in our history.
Thank you. President Biden?
There was no inflation when I became president. You know why? The economy was flat on its back. 15% unemployment. He decimated the economy, absolutely decimated the economy. That's why there was no inflation at the time. There were no jobs. We provided thousands of millions of jobs for individuals who are in all communities, including minority communities. We made sure that they have health insurance. We have covered, if the ACA has increased, I made sure that they're $8,000 per person in a family to get written off for the health care. But this guy wants to eliminate that. They tried 50 times. He wants to get rid of the ACA again. and they're going to try again if they win. We find ourselves in a position where the idea that we're not doing any, we put more police on the street than any administration has. He wants to cut the cops. We're providing for equity and making sure people have a shot to make it. There's a lot going on, but in inflation, he caused it by his tremendous malfeasance in the way he handled the pandemic.
Thank you.
This motherfucker, Amy. God damn, why is it all like, why are black people being treated like they're like retards?
Country are confronting the
I was thinking that same shit. I'm like, why? He's saying we want to give black families, first-time buyers, like $10,000. Why just black families? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I'm sure the rest of us wouldn't mind fucking having some extra shit to help us get a home, huh?
Yeah.
But they assume that all white people have money.
I'll be right back.
All right.
From every state is supporting Donald J. Trump. Almost every police group. And what he's done to the black population.
Yeah, and also 50% of the violent crime.
We called them super predators. We can't, in the 1990s, we can't forget that. Super predators was his name. And he called it to them for 10, and they've taken great offense at it. And now they see it happening. But when they see what I did for criminal justice reform and for the historically black colleges and universities, where I funded them and got them all funded, and the opportunity zones with Tim, as you know, Tim Scott was incredible. He did a great job, great senator from South Carolina. He came to me with the idea, and it was a great idea. It's one of the most successful economic development acts ever in the country, opportunity zones. And the biggest beneficiary are blacks. And that's why we have
got 11 people in the house. That's what's up. Get the chat going crazy.
He's lost much of the black population because he's done a horrible job for black people. He's also done a horrible job for Hispanics. But wait till you see these millions.
Well, your Johnson would certainly be larger if he was.
It's a disaster.
You've 38 seconds left. President Trump, will you take any action as president to slow the climate?
Put him in fucking prison.
Absolutely immaculate, clean water. And I want absolutely clean air. And we had it. We had H2O. We had the best numbers ever. And we were using all forms of energy, all forms, everything. And yet, during my 4 years, I had the best environmental numbers ever. And my top environmental people gave me that statistic just before I walked on the stage, actually.
I don't know where the hell he's been. The idea that anything he said is true. I passed the most extensive climate change legislation in history. We find ourselves, and by the way, black colleges, I
had a matrix flip just now.
Versus in colleges, because they don't have those. They don't have the kind of contributors that they have to build these laboratories. Like any black student in college can do what any white student can do. They just have the money, but now they'll be able to get those jobs in high tech. We're in a situation where the idea that he is claiming to have done something that had the cleanest water, he hadn't done a damn thing for the environment. He pulled out of the Paris Peace Accord, Climate Accord. I immediately joined it because if we reach 1.5 degrees Celsius at any one point, there's no way back. The only existential threat to humanity is climate change. And he didn't do a damn thing about it. He wants to undo all that I've done.
The Paris Accord was going to cost us $1 trillion, and China nothing, and Russia nothing, and India nothing. It was a ripoff of the United States. And I ended it because I didn't want to waste that money because they treat us horribly. We were the only ones who was costing us money. Nobody else was paying into it. And it was a disaster. But everything that he said just now, I'll give you an example. I heard him say before insulin. I'm the one that got the insulin down for the seniors. I took care of the seniors. What he's doing is destroying all of our medical programs because the migrants coming in, they want everybody. And look, I have the biggest heart on the stage. I guarantee you that. And I want to take care of people, but we're destroying our country. They're taking over our schools, our hospitals, and they're going to be taking over Social Security. He is destroying Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid.
The idea is that we, in fact, we were the only ones of consequence who we're not members of the Paris Accord. How can we do anything? We're not able to, the United States can't get its under control. One of the largest polluters in the world, number one. We're making significant progress. By 2035, we will have cut pollution in half. We have made significant progress. And we're
by 2035, no one will have a car is what they also want.
Learn how to deal with just like the Peace Corps. And we're moving in directions that are going to significantly change the elements of cause of pollution. But the idea that he claims that he has the biggest heart up here and he's really concerned about pollution and about climate, I've not seen any indication of that. And by the way, with regard to prescription drugs, one company agreed that they would reduce the price to $35, which I was calling for, one, voluntarily. I made sure every company in the world, every pharmaceutical company, cannot have to pay.
Thank you.
And by the way,
So every day, millions of Americans struggle just to make ends meet. For many older,
it's hard to follow. Like, this is even more confusing than the Putin interview. They want everyone to pay. They want to make a fucking welfare state.
In just over 10 years. Will you name tonight one specific step that
What'd you say, brother? Oh, wait, he's about to ask him a question.
yes, make the very wealthy begin to pay their fair share. Right now, everybody making under $170,000 pays 6% of their income, of their paycheck, every single time they get a paycheck from the time the first one they get when they're 18 years old. The idea that they're gonna, I'm proposing that everybody, they pay, the millionaires pay 1%, 1%. So no one I would not raise the cost of Social Security.
He certainly did just came a bunch of they're gonna make a bacon cheeseburger tax. Fuck. What are you getting so far? What are you getting from this? I don't understand how Biden's gonna be, how he's gonna win this presidency.
No, I mean,
though.
He's not winning this debate. He's not winning this next election.
He probably gonna
see if they give it to a man. You know, we just really have to like stick together, like as humans. And like just like really form an alliance between and like put other shit aside and just be very cool with one another, with old friends, with new friends, and just trying to keep as much peace as possible, because I feel like shit's just going to hit the fan. I feel like, you know, people are just going to go crazy. It may not happen overnight, but in the span of, you know, our kids growing up and being like 10, 11, 12, 13 years old, who fucking knows what's going to be going on by then?
Yeah, exactly. Like, will there even be a United States the way that we know it as, like what we grew up with?
See, man, I just want to grow up, have the same opportunities I had growing up. That's what I want my kids to have.
Yeah, dude. It's nowadays,
and our only hope is Donald Trump becoming president and really not showing that this system is rigged. They have to give it to him. If anything, rig it next time, but just let him have it this time to keep people like blind. If anything, they could blind people to be like, oh my God, it isn't rigged, when even though it is possibly rigged, you know?
I know. Yeah, exactly. You're right. Like, we're all into Trump and shit. Like, that's who we're voting. But like, you know, he could be a part of this shit too.
Or him not even knowing about it neither. Like neither of these motherfuckers knowing about it. They're smart enough to be able to do this and read fast. So like they were selected, but people above them could be fucking in control of everything and being like, let's just let them have it this time. And next time we will rule the world.
That's exactly how the fuck they do it, though. That's probably how they're talking about it. In Switzerland, too.
For anybody under $400,000, after that, it began to make the wealthy begin to pay their fair.
I believe the wealthy should be taxed as well.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like, there ain't no way. Nobody needs fucking $200 billion. You don't need more than $100 million.
Oh, dude. Nobody I know makes over $40,000 a year. Single person
right now, let alone, so she makes a very good point.
Share by increasing from 1% beyond to be able to guarantee the program for life.
So you still have 82 seconds left. Are there any other measures that you think that would be able to help keep Social Security solvent, or is that one enough?
Well, no, that one enough will keep it solvent. But the biggest thing will do it if we defeat this man, because he wants to get rid of Social Security. He thinks there's
Do you hear
money
this
to cut
shit?
Social Security.
Sure.
He's wanted to cut Social Security and Medicare both times. And that's what.
It's
And if you
not
look at the
fucking fun either.
program
It's
put
fucking
forward by
dumbass
the House Republican caucus that I believe supports, is in fact want to cut it as well. The idea that we don't need to protect our seniors is ridiculous. And by the way, the American public has greater health care coverage today than ever before. And on the ACA, as I said, you're in a circumstance where 400,000 people, 40 million people would not have insurance because they have a pre-existing condition. Only thing that allows them to have that insurance is the fact that they, in fact, are part of the ACA. And by the way, the other thing is, we're in a situation where I talk about education for Black communities. I've raised the amount of money for Pell Grants by another $8,000. So anybody making under $70,000 a year is going to be able to get $15,000 toward their tuition. He just doesn't know what he's talking about.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump.
So I've dealt with politicians all my life. I've been on this side of the equation for the last 8 years. I've never seen anybody lie like this guy. He lies. I've never seen it. He can look you in the face.
I don't know.
So many other things
looks like.
And we mentioned the laptop. We mentioned Russia, Ukraine, Ukraine. Everything he does is a lie. It's misinformation and disinformation. The losers and suckers story that he made up is a total lie on the military. It's a disgrace. But Social Security,
thanks for stopping.
He's destroying it because millions of people are pouring into our country, and they're putting them onto Social Security. They're putting them onto Medicare, Medicaid. They're putting them in our hospitals. They're taking the place of our citizens. What they're doing to the VA, to our veterans, is unbelievable. Our veterans are living in the street, and these people are living in luxury hotels. He doesn't know what he's doing, and it's really coming back. I've never seen such anger in our country before.
President Biden?
The idea that veterans are not being taken care of, I told you before. And by the way, when I said suckers and losers, he acknowledged after that he fired that general. That general got fired because he's the one that acknowledged that's what he said. He was the one standing with Trump when he said it, number one. Number two, the idea that we're going to be in a situation where all these millions and millions, the way he talks about it, illegal aliens are coming into the country and taking away our jobs. There's a reason why we have the fastest growing economy in the world, the reason why we have the most successful economy in the world. We're doing better than any other nation in the world. And by the way, those 15 Nobel laureates he talked about being phony, those 15 Nobel laureates, economists, they all said that if Trump is reelected, we're likely to have a recession and inflation is going to increasingly go up. And by the way, worst president in history, 159 presidential scholars voted him the worst president in the history of the United States of America.
President Biden, thank you so much. Let's turn to the cost of child care, which many American families struggle to afford. President Trump, both you and President Biden have tried to address this issue, but the average cost of child care in this country has risen to more than $11,000 a year per child. For many families, the cost of child care for 2 children is more than their rent. In your second term, what would you do to make child care more affordable?
Just to go back, the general got fired because he was no good. And if he said that, that's why he made it up. But we have 19 people that said I didn't say it, and they're very highly respected, much more so than him. The other thing is he doesn't fire people. He never fired people. I've never seen him fire anybody. I did fire a lot. I fired Comey because he was no good. I fired a lot of the top people at the FBI, drained the swamp. They were no good. Not easy to fire people. You'd pay a price for it, but they were no good. I inherited these people. I didn't put them.
Well, criminals, like, what is your definition of criminal? Is it money laundering and treason and possibly child catching? Or is it false accusations being levied? Is it, what do you mean?
He didn't fire. Did you fire anybody? Did you fire anybody that's on the border that's allowed us to have the worst border in the history of the world? Did anybody get fired for allowing 18 million people, many from prisons, many from mental institutions? Did you fire anybody that allowed our country to be destroyed? Joe, our country is being destroyed as you and I sit up here and waste a lot of time on this debate. This shouldn't be a debate. He is the worst president. He just said about me because I said it. But look, he's the worst president in the history of our country.
Somewhat agree.
Now all of a sudden he's trying to get a little tough on the border. He came out with a nothing deal, and it reduced it a little bit, like this much. It's insignificant. He wants open borders. He wants our country to either be destroyed or he wants to pick up those people as voters. And I don't think we just can't let it happen. If he wins this election, our country doesn't have a chance, not even a chance, of coming out of this rut. We probably won't have a country left anymore. That's how bad it is. He is the worst in history by far.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden?
We're the most admired country in the world.
RFK Jr. would be good, but won't hear about him.
We have the finest military in the history of the world, the finest in the history of the world. No one thinks we're weak. No one wants to screw around with us. Nobody, number one. Number two, the idea that we're talking about worst presidents. I wasn't joking. Look it up. Go online. 159 or 58, don't hold me the exact number, presidential historians, they've had meetings and they voted who's the worst president in American history, one through best to worst. They said he was the worst in all of American history. That's a fact. That's not conjecture. He can argue they're wrong, but that's what they voted. The idea that he is doing anything to deal with child care, he did virtually nothing to child care. We should significantly increase the child care tax credit. We should significantly increase the availability of women and men or single parents to be able to go back to work. And we should encourage businesses to have.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, the question was about what would you do to make child care more affordable, if you want to take your minute.
Just so you understand, we have polling, we have other things that they rate him the worst because what he's done is so bad. And they rate me, I'll show you, I will show you. And they rate me one of the best, okay? And if I'm given another 4 years, I will be the best. I think I'll be the best. Nobody's ever created an economy like us. Nobody ever cut taxes like us. He's the only one I know. He wants to raise your taxes by 4 times. He wants to raise everybody's taxes by 4 times. He wants the Trump tax cuts to expire. So everybody, including the two of you, are going to pay 4 to 5 times. Nobody ever heard of this before. All my life, I'd grow up and I'd see politicians talking about cutting taxes. When we cut taxes, as I said, we did more business. Apple and all these companies, they were bringing money back into our country. The worst president in history by far, and everybody knows it.
President Biden?
Look, the fact of the matter is that he's dead wrong about, he's increased the tariff, he will increase the taxes on middle-class people. I said I'd never raise a tax on anybody making less than $400,000. I didn't. But this tariff is 10% tariffs. Everything coming into the country, you know what the economists say? That's going to cost the average American $2,500 a year more because they're going to have to pay the difference in food and all the things that were imported. Number two, he's in a situation where he talks about how he has not raised, he's somehow helped the middle class. The middle class have been devastated. Now you want a new tax cut of $5 trillion over the next 10 years, which is going to fundamentally bankrupt the country. You had the largest deficit of any president in American history, number one. Number two, you have not, in fact, made any contact, any progress with China. We are at the lowest trade deficit with China since 2010.
Thank you, President Biden. Thank you, President Biden. Let's discuss an epidemic impacting millions of Americans that both of you have made a top priority in your first term.
This motherfucker is just repeating himself over and over.
For both of you, the number of overdose deaths in this country has gone up. Under your term, it went up. Under your term, it has gone up. Former President Trump, despite the efforts that both of you have made, more than 100,000 Americans are dying from overdoses every year, primarily from fentanyl and other opioids. What will you do to help Americans now in the throes of addiction who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
To finish up, we now have the largest deficit in the history of our country under this guy. We have the largest deficit with China. He gets paid by China. He's a Manchurian candidate. He gets money from China. So I think he's afraid to deal with them or something. But do you notice he never took out my tariffs because we bring in so much money with the tariffs that I imposed on China. He never took them away. He can't because it's too much money. It's tremendous. And we saved our steel industries, and there was more to come, but he hasn't done that. But he hasn't cut the tariffs because he can't, because it's too much money. But he's got the largest deficit in the history of our country, and he's got the worst situation with China. China is going to own us if you keep allowing them to do what they're doing to us as a country. They are killing us as a country, Joe, and you can't let that happen. You're destroying our country.
So, President Trump, you have 67 seconds left. The question was, what are you going to do to help Americans in the throes of addiction right now who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
Jake, we were doing very well at addiction until the COVID came along. We had the 2.5, almost 3 years of, like nobody's ever had before, any country, in every way. And then we had to get tough. And it was the drugs pouring across the border it started to increase. We got great equipment. We bought the certain dog that's the most incredible thing that you've ever seen, the way they can spot it. We did a lot. And we were getting very low numbers, very, very low numbers. Then he came along. The numbers, have you seen the numbers now? It's not only the 18 million people that I believe is even low, because the gotaways, they don't even talk about gotaways, but the numbers of the amount of drugs and human trafficking in women coming across our border, the worst thing I've ever seen.
No, this is true shit.
Nobody's ever seen under him, because the border's so bad. But the number of drugs coming across our border now is the largest we've ever had by far.
President Trump, thank you. President Biden.
Drugs. Fentanyl and the byproducts of fentanyl went.
There's fentanyl in the weed back in 2020.
I wanted to make sure we use the machinery that can detect fentanyl. These big machines that roll over everything that comes across the border. And it costs a lot of money. That was part of this deal we put together, this bipartisan deal. More fentanyl machines, more be able to detect drugs, more numbers of agents, more numbers of all the people at the border. And when we had that deal done, he called his Republican colleagues, said, "Don't do it. It's going to hurt me politically." No, he never argued it's not a good bill. It's a really good bill. We need those machines. We need those machines. And we're coming down very hard in every country in Asia in terms of precursors for fentanyl. And Mexico is working with us to make sure they don't have the technology to be able to put it together. That's what we have to do.
It came from Mexico.
Machines. Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, again,
I thought you said it was. Are you the one that told me
of addiction right now, struggling to
that Pablo Escobar is the one?
Yeah, dude.
Because the CIA told him how
he released the fentanyl upon the world, upon North America, at least as far as I know. They said the Blue Demon or Blue Devil or some shit. And yeah. And I mean, no fucking president in the world can stop that. I mean, fuck. It's a very small substance that could be sent over anywhere. But yeah.
to get the treatment they need.
Well, this does pertain to it. He ended Remain in Mexico. He ended catch and release. I made it catch and release in Mexico, not catch and release here. We had so many things that we had done, hard negotiations with Mexico, and I got it all for nothing. It's just like when you have a hostage, we always pay $6 billion for a hostage. Every time we say it's a hostage. Now we have a hostage, the Wall Street Journal reporter, I think a good guy, and he's over there because Putin is laughing at this guy, probably asking for billions of dollars for the reporter. I will have him out.
There was a fucking lesbian
as soon as I take
basketball
office,
player.
Before I take office, I said, by literally, as soon as I win the election, I will have that reporter out. He should have had him out a long time ago. But Putin's probably asking for billions and billions of dollars because this guy pays it every time. We had two cases where he paid $6 billion for 5 people. I got 58 people out, and I paid essentially nothing.
Thank you, President Trump. Dana?
Let's turn to concerns that voters have about each of you.
President Trump just fucking
Biden,
speaks his shit. He's what's up.
At the end of your second
he's on
term,
some real shit.
how do you address concerns
Have you?
about your capability to
want
do
to
the toughest job in the world well into your 80s?
Well, first of all, I spent half my career being criticized being the youngest person in politics. I was the second youngest person ever elected to the United States Senate, and now I'm the oldest. This guy's 3 years younger and a lot less competent. I think that just look at the record, look at what I've done. Look how I've turned around the horrible situation he left me. As I said, 15 million new jobs, 800,000 manufacturing jobs, more investment in America, over billions of dollars in private investment in enterprises that we are growing. By the way, we brought an awful lot of people. Well, the whole idea of computer chips, we used to have 40% of the market. We invented those chips, and we lost it because he was sending people to find the cheapest jobs overseas and then bring home a product. So I went to South Korea. I convinced Samsung to invest billions of dollars here in the United States. And guess what?
It's one
those fabs they call
for Trump
to build these chips. Those fabs pay over $100,000. You don't need a college degree for them. And there's billions, about $40 billion already being invested and being built right now in the United States, creating significant jobs for Americans from all over the world.
President Biden, you have 40 seconds left. Would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I would. The idea that somehow we are this failing country. I never heard a president talk like this before. We're the envy of the world. Name me a single major country president who wouldn't trade places with the United States of America for all our problems and all our opportunities. We're the most progressive country in the world in getting things done. We're the strongest country in the world. We're a country in the world who keeps our word, and everybody trusts us, all of our allies, and our who he calls up to. Kim Jong-un, he sends love letters to, and Putin, etc. They don't want to screw around with us.
Thank you. Former President Trump, to follow up, you would be 82 at the end of your second term. What do you say to voters who have concerns about your capabilities to serve?
Well, I took 2 tests, cognitive tests. I aced them, both of them, as you know. We made it public. He took none. I'd like to see him take one, just one, a real easy one. Like go through the first 5 questions. He couldn't do it. But I took 2 cognitive tests. I took physical exams every year. And, we knock on wood wherever we may have wood, that I'm in very good health. I just won 2 club championships, not even senior, 2 regular club championships.
Yeah.
To do that, you have to be quite smart, and you have to be able to hit the ball a long way.
Yeah.
And I do it.
He
doesn't do it. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. He challenged me to a golf match. He can't hit a ball 50 yards.
He's a strong bastard.
I think I'm in very good shape. I feel that I'm as in good a shape as I was 25, 30 years ago. Actually, I'm probably a little bit lighter, but I'm in as good a shape as I was years ago. I feel very good. I feel the same. But I was willing to take a cognitive test. And you know what? If I didn't do well, I aced them. Dr. Ronnie Jackson, who's a great guy when he was White House doctor. And then I took another one, a similar one. And one of them said they've never seen anybody ace him.
Thank you. President Biden?
You can see he is 6'5" and only 223 pounds, or 235 pounds. Well, you said 6'4", 200. Well, anyway, that's it. Anyway, just take a look at what he says he is. Look at what he is. Look, I'd be happy to have a driving contest. I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6.
Listen to the talking about golf now.
I told you before, I'm happy to play golf if you carry your own bag. Think you can do it?
Carry your own bag?
He's a 6 handicap of all.
I was 8 handicap. Yeah. 8.
That's a handicap is a golf term.
I've seen you swing. I know you swing.
Good. Is that good?
Okay, let's not act like children.
Listen. Wait, go back.
Let's not.
Well, anyway, just take a look at what he says he is, and take a look.
That's good.
Former President Trump, to follow up, you would be.
A little
One
far
of them
back.
said they've never seen anybody ace him.
Thank you. President Biden, it's all legal challenges have been exhausted.
Years ago, I feel very good. I feel the same. But I was willing to take a cognitive test.
Just
And you
use
know
your
what?
arrows on your keyboard, dude.
Dr. Ron.
I told you before, I'm happy to play golf if you carry your own. I got my handicap. Well, anyway, that's it. Anyway, just take a look at what he says he is, and take a look at what he is. Look, I'd be happy to have a driving contest with him. I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6. And by the way, I told you before, I'm happy to play golf if you carry your own bag. Think you can do it?
That's the biggest lie. He's a 6 handicap of all.
I was an 8 handicap.
Yeah.
8.
Never.
But I have, how many?
I've seen you swing. I know you swing.
Okay, let's
not act like children.
President
Joe.
Trump, we're going to turn
Let's not act like children.
to a specific concern that voters have about
Your
you.
child.
Will you pledge
It's like
tonight
some kid shit. Like I'm better than you. No, I am better than you.
that once all legal challenges have been exhausted, that you will accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins, and you will say right now that political violence in any form is unacceptable?
Well, I shouldn't have to say that, but of course I believe that. It's totally unacceptable. And if you would see my statements that I made on Twitter at the time, and also my statement that I made in the Rose Garden, you would say it's one of the strongest statements you've ever seen. In addition to the speech I made in front of, I believe, the largest crowd I've ever spoken to. And I will tell you, nobody ever talks about that. They talk about a relatively small number of people that went to the Capitol and in many cases were ushered in by the police. And as Nancy Pelosi said, it was her responsibility, not mine. She said that loud and clear. But the answer is, if the election is fair, free, and I want that more than anybody. And I'll tell you something. I wish he was a great president because I wouldn't be here right now. I'd be at one of my many places enjoying myself. I wouldn't be under indictment because I wouldn't have been his political opponent, because he indicted me because I was his opponent.
You say to pause it?
No.
I wish he was a great president. I would rather have that. I wouldn't be here. I don't mind being here. But the only reason I'm here is he's so bad as a president that I'm going to make America great again. We're going to make America great again. We're a failing nation right now. We're a seriously failing nation. And we're a failing nation because of him. His policies are so bad. His military policies are insane. They're insane. These are wars that will never end with him. He will drive us into World War III, and we're closer to World War III than anybody can imagine. We are very, very close to World War III, and he's driving us there. And Kim Jong-un and President Xi of China, Kim Jong-un of North Korea, all of these, Putin, they don't respect him. They don't fear him. They have nothing going with this gentleman, and he's going to drive us into World War III.
Yeah.
You want a World War III, let him follow and win, and let Putin say, do what you want, NATO. Just do what you want. There's a thing called Article 5. An attack on one is attack on all, a required response. The idea, I can't think of a single major leader in the world who wouldn't trade places with the job I've done, what they've done. Because we are a powerful nation. We have wonderful people. It's because of the people, not me. It's because of the American people. They're capable of anything, and they step up when they're needed. And right now, we're needed. We're needed to protect the world because our own safety is at stake. And again, you want to have a war, just let Putin go ahead and take Kyiv, make sure they move on, see what happens in Poland, Hungary, and other places along that border. Then you have a war.
He gives a fuck about
President
Hungary.
Trump, as I come back to you for a follow-up.
Yeah, and Poland
the
too.
question was,
like, why do we gotta save all these other?
Worry about America.
You know, worry about America first, then we worry about Europe next. You know.
Yeah.
But I would put Europe higher up on my priorities than the Middle East.
will you accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins?
Just to finish what he said, if I might, Russia, they took a lot of land from Bush. They took a lot of land from Obama and Biden. They took no land, nothing from Trump, nothing. He knew not to do it. Not going to play games with me. He knew that. I got along with him very well, but he knew not to play games. He took nothing from me. But now he's going to take the whole thing from this man right here. That's a war that should have never started. It would have never started ever with me. And he's going to take Ukraine. And, you know, you asked me a question before, would you do this? He's got us in such a bad position right now with Ukraine and Russia, because Ukraine's not winning that war. He said, I will never settle until such time. They're running out of people. They're running out of soldiers. They've lost so many people. It's so sad. They've lost so many people, and they've lost those gorgeous cities with the golden domes that are 1,000 years old, all because of him and stupid decisions. Russia would have never attacked if I were
President Trump,
president.
the question was, will you accept the results of the election, regardless of who wins? Yes or no, please.
If it's a fair and legal and good election, absolutely. I would have much rather accepted these, but the fraud and everything else was ridiculous. And if you want, we'll have a news conference on it in a week, or we'll have another one of these in a week. But I will absolutely, there's nothing I'd rather do. It would be much easier for me to do that than I'm running again. I wasn't really going to run until I saw the horrible job he did. He's destroying our country. I would be very happy to be someplace else, in a nice location someplace. And again, no indictments, no political opponent stuff, because it's the only way he thinks he can win. But unfortunately, it's driven up my numbers and driven them up to a very high level because the people understand it.
Let's see what your numbers are when this election is over. Let's see. You're a whiner. When you lost the first time, you continued, you appealed and appealed to courts all across the country. Not one single court in America said any of your claims had any merit, state or local, none. But you continue to provoke this lie about somehow there's all this misrepresentation, all this stealing. There is no evidence of that at all. And I tell you what, I doubt whether you'll accept it because you're such a whiner. The idea, if you lose again, you accepting anything, you can't stand the loss. Something snapped in you when you lost the last time.
We'll be right back with more of the CNN presidential debate live from Georgia.
Still believe.
So Bill Clinton and his ugly ass fucking dumbass bitch wife. Who's a young Joe Biden.
I will draw on the best of us, not the worst.
This towering Americans.
And then Joe Biden 4 years ago, look at him now.
It is now time for the candidates to deliver their closing statements as predetermined by a coin toss. We're going to begin with you, President Biden. You have 2 minutes.
We've made significant progress from the debacle that was left by President Trump in his last term. We find ourselves in a situation where, number
That's
one,
so stupid when they say
we
that.
have to make sure that we have a fair tax system.
I always say,
I ask anyone out there in the audience, or anyone out watching this debate, do you think the tax system is fair? The fact is that I said nobody even making under $400,000 had a single penny increase in their taxes, and will not. And if I'm reelected, that'll be the case again. But this guy has increased your taxes because of the deficit. Number one, he's increased inflation because of the debacle he left after the way he handled the pandemic. And he finds himself in a position where he now wants to tax you more by putting a 10% tariff on everything that comes into the United States of America. What I did, when, for example, he wants to get rid of the ability of Medicare for us to be able to negotiate drug prices with the big pharma companies. Well, guess what? We got it down to $35 for insulin instead of $400. No more than $2,000 for every senior, no matter how much prescription they need. You know what that did? That reduced the federal debt by $160 billion over 10 years because the government doesn't have to pay the exorbitant prices. I'm going to make that available to every senior all along. It's happening now, and everybody in America. He wants to get rid of that. I'm going to make sure that we have child care. We're going to significantly increase the credits people have for child care. I'm going to make sure we do something about what we're doing on lead pipes and all the things that are causing health problems for people across the country. We're going to continue to fight to bring down inflation and give people a break.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, you now have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Like so many politicians, this man is just a complainer. He said, we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to get rid of this tax, that tax. But he doesn't do anything. All he does is make our country unsafe by allowing millions and millions of people to pour in. Our military doesn't respect him. We look like fools in Afghanistan. We didn't stop Israel. It was such a horrible thing that would have never happened. It should have never happened. Iran was broke. Anybody that did business with Iran, including China, they couldn't do business with the United States. They all passed. Iran was broke. They had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah, for terror, no money whatsoever. Again, Ukraine should have never happened. He talks about all this stuff, but he didn't do it. For 3.5 years, we're living in hell. we have the Palestinians and we have everybody else rioting all over the place. You talk about Charlottesville. This is 100 times Charlottesville, 1,000 times. The whole country is exploding because of you, because they don't respect you, and they have to respect their president, and they don't respect you throughout the world. What we did was incredible. We rebuilt the military. We got the largest tax cut in history, the largest regulation cut in history. The reason he's got jobs is because I cut the regulations that gave jobs, but he's putting a lot of those regulations back on. All of the things that we've done, nobody's never seen anything like, even from a medical standpoint, right to try, where we can try space age materials instead of going to Asia or going to Europe and trying to get when you're terminally ill. Now you can go and you can get something. You sign a document. They've been trying to get it for 42 years. But you know what we did for the military was incredible. Choice for our soldiers, where our soldiers, instead of waiting for 3 months to see a doctor, can go out and get themselves fixed up and readied up and take care of themselves, and they're living. And that's why I had the highest approval rating in the history of the VA. So all of these things, we're in a failing nation, but it's not going to be failing anymore. We're going to make it great again.
Thank you, former President Trump, President Biden. Stay with us because we have full analysis of this debate. Anderson Cooper and Aaron Burnett starts now on CNN.
Huh.
Well,
So I guess that's it.
that's all she wrote. Until the next one.
Huh. They ended that real quick. Trump was the last to speak.
Yeah, he fucking ended that really good too, I'd have to say.
Yeah.
And that's a wrap. The first
Fuck Joe
presidential
Biden.
debate.
He's a pussy.
Yeah, I wonder how many lies will be discovered that were how many lies will be on the fact checks and shit. You know what I mean?
I don't know, man.
This motherfucker is full of shit. Yeah, don't be a bunch of hoes. Like the video, share it. If you're new to the channel, obviously subscribe. Yeah. What do you take away from that? I take away from that. I mean, because it's kind of like I feel like Trump, like we can't trust him 100%. But what do you think?
I mean, you can never trust anybody. You know, if Stone Cold Steve Austin taught me anything growing up, it's DTA. Don't trust anybody. And but you know, for my children or my child, I don't plan on having more than one. For their sake, I'm hoping somebody such as Trump. I mean, it doesn't have to be Donald Trump's skin or anything. I mean, it's just someone with the right plan, the right idea, and it so happens to be Trump, someone that I have fucked with for a long time and have known growing up. The Apprentice, he was in the WWE. He did all this shit. He did it all, and I fuck with him. And now all of a sudden he's a racist because he's a Republican. I didn't know what any of that fucking shit meant until fucking.
Yeah, the politics wasn't really as divisive like it was as much, you know.
I never heard of somebody calling a president a racist or any names like that. Except for like I guess some, you know, with Obama, but even then, like no one really talked shit about Obama when he was president.
Yeah, not at the level of the people that were protesting on Trump.
Oh yeah, I mean, I didn't really ever really see protests until Donald Trump came around and all the fucking BLM shit.
I wonder if there are any protests there, but he does have NAACP awards. That is true. I wonder if there's any protests that are happening outside of it.
I wonder.
Anybody setting themselves on fire? And RFK Jr. should have been involved in that fucking debate.
Yeah.
You heard about in Kenya, they had a failed coup attempt.
What?
You heard in Kenya, you didn't hear about yeah, in Kenya, they had a failed coup attempt.
Oh shit.
Yeah, people were trying to take over the government. And also in Bolivia too. And in the Congo. So this past couple of weeks, dude, there's been all kinds of attempts to overthrow their kind of governments throughout the world.
Check out my profile picture.
Let me put you on full screen. This is like the old man that fucking shit.
That's Biden. That's a security cam footage from his nursing home where they keep him.
That's what they keep that motherfucker in a. They keep that motherfucker inside of a.
And as you can see, he's shit.
Let's watch a bloopers compilation of them real quick. Oh yeah, you remember the goblins running around in Africa? Did I tell you about that? God, dude, CIA is at it, brother. This Biden administration is trying to fuck up our world. Like they're trying, like all these little countries are having revolutions. Fucking there's goblins running around in Africa, addicted to Christmas.
The chocolate chip. North Carolina announced a 100-day incentive, $100 incentive a day. Places have offered $100. That'd be really good. I think I can get next to the time. Inside offered $100 for vaccination. I've seen up to 25% daily vaccination. It's also dedicated to their customers and employers.
I can't even hear this motherfucker.
That when they leave the saloon, the receptionist, the salon, they're maybe going to a saloon. I don't know. I caught part of President Putin's press conference, and he talked about the need for us to be able to have some kind of modus operandi where we dealt with making sure the Arctic was, in fact, a free zone.
Is a Taliban takeover of Afghanistan now inevitable?
No, it is not. Because you have the Afghan troops have 300,000 well-equipped as any army in the world, and an air force against something like 75,000 Taliban. It is not inevitable. Do I trust the Taliban? No, but I trust the capacity.
Ukraine doesn't want to fight, but they're forced into the situation where they are fighting.
Yeah, it was so crazy, the fucking rules they had. Each person got 2 minutes, then person mic gets muted, blah, blah, fucking blah. That went well, I feel like. As I knew it would.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting. They were trying to act like Trump was about to have all kinds of failures and be bumbling along.
Yeah.
Well, Biden's probably has a massive uptick in the gay vote because, he recently pardoned over 2,000 dudes who had been kicked out of the military for having sodomy sex with each other.
Well.
Good
for him, I guess.
Crazy motherfucking world, dude. You been liking all my new shorts?
I haven't been able to be on, really.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to hop on there and like them.
You'll click it. Every like counts. Every comment. Every share. Yeah, man. So I wonder how many more debates there's going to be.
Fuck, I don't know. After this one, they probably won't allow any more to happen.
No, they're going to be like that. That did not go good.
Yeah, not for Biden at least. Trump's definitely probably on his way right now to do some other podcast or meeting or something.
It'll be September.
Biden's going to fucking dump his colostomy bag.
Oh, news to share is live with protesters. So we're going to go share that. Yeah, fuck yeah, dude. Hitting the gym at 4 a.m. You're going to make yourself a monster. That's right, dude, because Honestly, I don't feel as prepared as I should be. I don't feel as prepared as I should be.
None of us are.
Weapon-wise.
But hey, I'm gonna have to hop off here.
You hopping off?
Yeah, it was good talking.
Fuck yeah, dude. We'll talk again. We'll game or something.
Yeah, we need a game tomorrow or night or something, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
All right, peace, brother.
Daddy out.
Let's go over here. Let's see. Going to news to share. Okay, let's see what we can do. Let's see. Okay, now we have gotten some footage. These dumbasses.
I think we're going to turn the music back on and chill just a little bit longer, see if people come here. There's helicopters and shit, but like literally they're trying to make us fucking afraid, and right now we're just chilling in a park. Let's keep the energy up, vibe with each other, talk to each other. Let's think and act and feel playful and good, and then we'll get this thing going when we're all ready together. Right?
Yeah, let's all fucking stick each other off. Fucking bitches, mess, fucking fool.
Free Palestine!
Yeah. Take it out the bank, go put it up. Got my main hoe put on. Straight off the black, go put it up.
I don't want to be fucking demonetized even more.
The home in the red with the diamonds. Every week I change my cloud. Got a family store in my house. Got a really good garage in my house. Got a watch my wrist cause a house. My bitch can't sleep at my house. Make sleep at home. When you talk me, you talking on cap. And your damn they looking like tap.
These motherfuckers probably think that they're cool. I like their little stature though. What's they got going on over here? Let's see.
The big scary orange man. Now in 2024, when the same sickening spectacle repeats itself, the people are tired. The mainstream has begun to see that if this is really the best that the imperialist machine has to offer, then there might be something wrong with the machine. We should use this awareness to our advantage because we know our history is different. Many of us standing here saw 2016 as an opportunity to rally around the appearance of the Iron Fist. And that's exactly what happened in 2020 when all of us took to the streets to avenge the murder of George Floyd.
Yeah, that meth head.
This showed us what is possible through the sheer power of mass mobilization. Police stations and department stores in flames, disbanded pigs in an autonomous zone in Seattle. But ultimately, we fell short. We lacked the organizational militancy to engage in long-term turf wars and achieve real demands, and the movement eventually fizzled. But we have learned since then. Over the past few months, students have shown what it means to take radical, direct action in the name of standing with the people of Palestine and disrupting the U.S.-Israeli genocidal war machine by any means necessary. Not only this, but we've learned how to create practical alternatives to micro-fascist life by living in camps together, having public councils, supporting each other, feeding each other.
Being gay with each other.
Struggle. As we stand here in defiance of the pig presidential spectacle a few blocks away, or in downtown rather, we should prepare ourselves for the high likelihood of a Trump presidency. This is nothing to be afraid of. In fact, this is everything we need to legitimize our struggle to the broad.
To stay connected, and I'll see you next time. Everyone, please stay home safe.
it. I don't want kids to die. I don't want there to be a fucking anything that belongs to Palestine. But y'all are fucking starting this shit. Go over the fight and fucking step up. Don't protest. That's literally what we're My mom was a part of it in the 60s. Underneath a bunch of fucking people that agree with you. Dude, you're keeping us all away from nothing, bro. No, I'm not. I just understand that there are good and bad ways to do everything. And screaming underneath
We're not
someone that
screaming.
you're
We're
against.
just
No, you're not. There's a fucking loudspeaker right there.
and
underneath my
we
fucking
have the right
hallway.
to protest. We are exercising our First Amendment right.
Like 6 blocks away from where the fucking actual thing is happening.
Let him go. It doesn't matter.
Fuck off.
Oh, we're gonna have an actual intelligent conversation. We're gonna cut each other off.
Yeah, like what did you expect? It's gonna be fucking quiet over here? Like being
Yeah, I know, Solomon. It was done, then everybody left. That's all right. We'll keep it going. Keep it going for a little longer.
It wrapped just a bit ago. When that one wrapped, that was when I walked up here. So that was Friends Park, I think it was called. Just shy of a mile around. You have to basically that way to cross the bridge left, right, and back around. It's like you almost have to go like where the debate is. It's like going around that building 3 sides.
Yeah.
To get to the other side.
Is it on the other side of 10th Street, down that way?
Yeah. Like
That's where my car
like this is blocked off, but like the straightest way would just be to walk straight that way if there wasn't blocking.
Hope you get some water, man.
Yeah, I will.
How did you come across? How did you come across the channel, Brian?
Okay, is it like?
Yeah, probably. It's about a half hour. Oh, okay. That's true.
Fucking badass stream. I had to catch the replay game last night. Replay game tonight from last night. A lot of fucking the same words, but you know they're on Red Dawn Readiness channel. Catch that last night or pull that off?
Well, I went from one protest that ended to this one. I went live, and then this one basically ended just a little bit after I got here. So I'm going to cut the live feed here kind of short, but I'll still be out here. My understanding is that the protest that I was at, although they kind of called to disperse, they ended up marching. So we'll kind of see. I might link back up with them, see what happens. Otherwise, I'll have footage to post from everything. I had a second shooter, David, out here at this one. So kind of a couple of separate demonstrations, but I'll have some 4K documentary footage of everything out later today.
Yes. I might end it with that one right there and come back with a vengeance here soon. Thanks to everybody that watched. Peace.